This is XDefiant. We're here on Xbox Series S. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a mismatch of various Ubisoft franchises coming together for a tactical shooter experience, which used to be I guess you would say Tom Clancy type game before they dropped that particular branding in order to open it for more of their IP and franchises to be able to be included in this game. So as a free-to-play shooter, you get a plethora of different game modes, which are all focused on objective-based combat as you attempt to make your way through levels in various ways, sometimes doing domination, sometimes escorting various, I guess you'd say, little robots, sometimes taking over hills and positions. It varies quite a bit depending on the level and the scenario and whatever objective you have going on. But it's always objective-focused in terms of like the gameplay style, except for like Hotshot, but that's more like a mix on like, I guess you would say, Regicide from Halo and or a little bit like Headhunter, Kill Confirm kind of, but yeah, little different. So anyways, what are we getting here on the Series S? Well, we've got actually two different graphical options, which I didn't think we would get here, considering earlier betas didn't have that sort of thing. And this is, of course, the final release, which is why we're doing a final review, as to say, for the Series S version of the game. So it's 1440p at 60 FPS dynamic. And then we also have the option from the settings to adjust the FOV in case you want to change your field of view. And then you can also turn on HDR, because there's HDR settings, but you can also turn on the 120 FPS. So this should be dropping this down to something like, I want to say, like it should be 1080p roughly, dynamic lower than 1080p at 120 FPS, and it's smooth. I don't know if it quite feels like we're getting the full 120 FPS, but it is, you know, it's definitely well above the 60 FPS cap, and YouTube doesn't support 120 FPS at this current point in time. I can capture at it now and everything, which is why it's so much easier to showcase gameplay at this level. But yeah, you can definitely tell that there is quite a fidelity drop, and in some areas it seems a little deeper than in others. But playing a competitive shooter, it is what I would call a great benefit to be able to play at a higher frame rate. So I would say going for that is probably your ideal choice. I mean, obviously there is quite a resolution drop down from 1440p, but like at the same time, it is I want to say is a small visual choice in order to have something that allows you to just compete at a better quality level, if that makes sense. Because just the higher frames are so much better for shooters. Oh, a bunch of little robots came out of there. It's kind of funny. I've won a few times before. I've never noticed the other little robots escaping. And then on Escort, we switch sides so that we can mix it up a bit. But I think if you don't have the high frame rate screen, like obviously you need 120 hertz, you know, for 120 FPS. So if you don't have the screen, you just get kind of capped down to 1440, 60. It's still really clean, well-performing, well-polished sort of setup. There's some bugs and whatnot that they need to clean up here or there in regards to, you know, some mechanical things, or like, I want to say some balancing aspects. But overall, this is a very well put together experience. And I mean, it should be. They've been working on this as far as like literal beta tests, I think for like 2 years. We've been able to come in and like do streams and videos of it. So, you know, it's not like this is a new setup experience for us to take a look at the game in this way. It's just, this is sort of the final, like, okay, now that it's fully released, time to do a review. Wow, we really just kind of capped that team off pretty violently there off their sort of spawn, I guess you would say. Holy. Hitting them hard. So the Series S version is pretty impressive. I will definitely give it that props here for achieving both modes, a good-looking resolution 60 FPS mode and a good-looking, I mean, decent enough looking 120 FPS mode, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? A good mix of clarity and general fluidity, which is the end goal of a high frame rate, is the smoothness of it, and it does feel quite smooth. But I do think if you are, gunning for that Series X version of this, you do get an even better, I guess you would say, fluidity and resolution, obviously, which is just sort of expected. But I will say, in terms of just the detailed worlds, environments, and areas that you get, which are really mostly pulled off of, like, Division levels and other Ubisoft Snowdrop type games, it's pretty good looking. Like, there's a good sense of detail, good sense of scale and environment. I really like the competitive play of this. You get these larger maps, but they also give you all of these, like, tighter maps for domination, and for, this occupies the other one, and then hotshot. So there's a good selection of content to this. I do ponder the, when I look at this game, I like where it's at right now. I think they've actually put together something very competitive and nice and solid and decently fun. I do ponder the long term of it, though. The long term, like, player base, the content support, how much content it's going to get over time, because that seems to really be the thing that, like, keeps people's interest in the modern era for shooters, is content, content, content. They apparently have a lot of content lined up for this one, so we'll see how that is. Because if you are coming from the beta type things, and it's so weird to do a review and talking about, like, that sort of aspect, but because the beta, and the various, like, tests and everything they did were such a lengthy period of time, it does feel like this launch is just like a natural extension of that early showcase and play of this game. But, like, if you're coming from that, there's not anything new in terms of maps and whatnot, which was a bit of a letdown for me, because I was hoping that there might be something else that we get to, like, jump into for, like, freshness, because it just literally feels the exact same as that test in terms of gameplay. I was really struggling to get that guy after, getting some good shots off. I was really, what's going on there? But, yeah, no, I was hoping that there would be some extra bit of thing. Like, there's a great selection of maps. Like, there's actually quite a few of them. But there's not anything different from what we had previously played not too long ago. So just keep that in mind, as it's not going to necessarily feel fresh if you were putting in game time on those initial showcase tests for this game. If you weren't, you're in luck, because you get a wide range of maps and game modes and everything like that. I am curious to see how far they're going to take game modes in terms of, like, new ones, or if they're going to sort of keep with the game modes they have. That's a big thing I'm kind of pondering in this one, is sort of, like, basically how focused they're going to make things, or if they're going to really expand the scope of stuff, because you got to keep in mind player counts versus game modes, keeping people playing all the different stuff is a big thing. And yeah, it's neat, because they've got a decent amount of stuff and a decent amount of setups here, so the content, I think, is here for launch. It's just long term and keeping the player base going, because for me, this game is, like, really generic shooter the video game with Ubisoft franchises slapped on it, and that sounds not the best from, like, a perspective of, like, oh, that doesn't sound so super enticing, but, like, again, it is fun to play. Like, I have genuinely been enjoying playing it. There's nothing inherently wrong with this game, aside from maybe some personal thoughts on balancing and some little bugs here or there, but, like, it is a well-polished, very competent shooter. It gets the job done. It feels competitive, it feels fun. There's all these different adjustments and things that you can change to make your experience a little bit different. It's got that hero style to it, while not being, like, really awkwardly, overly superhero-like, if that makes sense, like hero shooters. So it leans into that with different abilities, like the Splinter Cell group. Obviously, you've seen the Invis, and you've seen my Super Ultra, where I've got, like, a kind of, like, aiming in, seeing everybody kind of thing. But then, Far Cry, they do healing, and I think the Phantoms do, like, shield stuff, and I think we're gonna have to jump into the next match here, because we got a nice victory, which is good. I think I did pretty well overall, I'd say, for that match. We've got another match here where we're once again moving the package. I actually quite like these, kind of maps and game modes. And then, like I was saying, though, you've got these different factions doing different things. We've turned on the Far Cry, where we actually get a healing thing. All those face huggers are so annoying. And then that, in turn, kind of leads into your loadout options. So in the game, you have the ability to make your own loadouts, so you can customize your guns, level your guns up. You can get different tools and weapons and whatnot. And then there's like the gun skins, and being a free-to-play, there's going to be different character skin outfits, weapon skin outfits, different things you can earn, different things you can buy. You know, the usual, really, right? Very much the usual sort of thing you would expect for this type of shooter. And it is nice that you get this full, what feels like a complete package and offering as a free-to-play game. It's completely available for you to enjoy. The snipers are broken and overpowered. Just gonna throw it out there. I mean, I did have low health, but I digress. Yeah, no, it's really quite neat in that setup. Like, they give you the full scale of things, like a COD, you know, type of shooter, basically. But they have that Ubisoft spin on it, which is either going to be of interest or not. And I do ponder the long term of this game, again, not in what I was saying earlier, but just in terms of, like, what new stuff they might add. Because I'm assuming in the long term, if it's successful, they'll want to be adding additional, like, factions with different abilities and skills, and that'll all change how things are balanced. And I'm wondering if it'll only be just Ubisoft franchises, or if we'll see something like, you know, Rainbow Six Siege there. They got, like, Halo sort of tie-ins. It might be interesting to see if other properties get thrown into the mix, if that makes sense. It would be really, really quite neat to see if other, I don't know, if shooters would hop in, or, you know, just other things, or even what other Ubisoft franchises might be kind of next candidates to get inclusion in this. I'm really genuinely curious to see how that would change the gameplay further, right? Because new maps and potentially new game modes, and then new characters and stuff, it all changes the dynamics of how a game plays. But it's good to come in here and do this, again, final type review, unless they do some kind of really weird graphical type thing. I don't think we'll probably be visiting the Series S version of this game again here, at least on the channel, because I don't really necessarily see a point in doing so, but it is good to cover it with the launch, and that's obviously why we're here, is because there was a reason for me to, you know, give it a whirl on this platform, right? But I'm really genuinely impressed with the Series S offering on this. This is one of those games where I'm like, good Series S. This is, well, taking advantage of the Series S and showcasing what the console can do in a satisfying way. I'm very pleased. I don't feel like you're missing anything playing this on the Series S, aside from some resolution fidelity, which is, again, very noticeable because of, you know, the other version of this I've been playing. But, like, it's still really good. Like, yeah, I'm coming off of another Series S, a game I was recording just kind of before this, and, like, the quality differences are miraculously different. This is like, oh, this is nice. Like, this feels like a proper current-gen game, which it is. You know, it's a current-gen title, current-gen shooter that's getting the job done and everything like that. It's appreciated, I would say. Yeah, that's the thing. Is good work on this Ubisoft. It may not necessarily fully capture my, you know, game time long term. It very well could. I really have no idea at this point how I'll feel about this one after I get all my achievements and stuff grinded out. But for now, I'm kind of having a good time playing it, shooting, you know, doing some streams and stuff of it. It's been great. I've also just, in general, I don't really care too much necessarily to fully include this type of thing, but I think it's relevant too. I've had quite a few people I've sort of dragged in to give it a try, of people I know, and they all seem to kind of like it and have fun with it, which is nice. And, you know, there's no skill-based matchmaking unless you kind of go for the ranked mode. I can't believe that is, like, considered a feature. Not having like a mentionable feature in a review is like whether or not it has skill-based matchmaking. But the modern era of gaming is so weird, honestly. It's, you never know what you're gonna get on stuff and what you're gonna have to talk about for certain games. But yeah, no, I think you can play it competitively, have some fun, maybe bring in some casual friends and have a good time too. There's different game modes for different people. I actually really like this stuff because there are very, very different levels. Like, you might, from my gameplay, get the feeling that this game is literally just sort of large-scale maps, but those ones are very much, these maps are very much tailored for... I have been wondering too, I don't know if it's like skins or graphical bugs, but some of the characters have like weird... I think that's a skin, but there was one character that was kind of like a little papery weird at the end of the round last time, and I don't know, it's not big stuff. But yeah, you might get the feeling that this game is just like large-scale maps, but there really is a balance. There's literally... usually when I'm streaming it, yeah, I'm playing it during like daytime or, well, specifically at night too. It tends to like just put you on small, like the small to medium levels, so it is really weird to be, I guess you would say, taking a look at this and just getting the large maps. But no, the large maps are meant for Escort and like the Strongholds, I think it's called, and those feature these large-scale, multi-layered things that might give you, I guess you would say, Overwatch-type vibes in terms of, like, the level setups, but the other modes where it is, like, more your traditional domination stuff are much smaller map setups that are based around the, I guess you would say, styling of smaller, tighter, more traditional shooter gameplay like something Call of Duty would have. Which is always the comparison for games, and I don't know, like, some people say this has, like, an older COD vibe. I really don't necessarily feel that out of this one. Like, it just feels, like, I don't know if that's just because COD has become such a, you know, useful as a generic sort of shooter benchmark, but I think this one does kind of lend its way to its own sort of thing. It's definitely not a Tom Clancy game, so I am glad. Like, you can see that there's origins and roots of it being a Tom Clancy game, and if they had, I think, leaned into the tactical stuff a bit more, it could have been like that sort of thing, but I think dropping that branding was kind of smart for this title. I still don't really understand what XDefiant means, but, you know, because I think the naming convention of this is a little silly, but I guess I don't know what else you would really call it. I'm gonna have to ask a marketing person for Ubisoft or something, like, what exactly the naming convention is for this game. I actually can be so good at this too. That's what kills me as well, is I'm kind of like, oh, I like it, I'm okay with it, but I'm also like actually pretty good at it most of the time too, which is weird. And yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting game. Like, I really am genuinely fascinated by this offering and its existence, and like, just looking at the other, I guess you would say, Ubisoft live service games that kind of didn't make the cut, and this one did. It's slightly perplexing to some degree, but like, I get it. It makes sense to me that this one, you know, did survive, and it's cool. Like, it really is. I'm interested in this one. I'll probably play a bit of it. I'll at least get my achievements out of it, and then I'm really curious what the overall, you know, feelings people have towards this one are going to be, because there is the foundations of a really solid shooter. Like, I think that's a big thing that some shooters struggle with, especially like free-to-play games, is not having a lot of content out of the gate. And it was a little weird that they took so long to actually just release this. Like, I think even in the last test they could have released it, or they could have released this a year ago, because the game, to me, really hasn't changed that much in that time frame. But like, you know, at least I guess they have, and they can definitely say comfortably, they have a full, I think there's a guy behind me, they have a full scope, full setup experience, and like, you know, this is as, I guess you would say, full of a thing as they could provide for the launch of a game like this. So I would say good job on this one. It's well worth checking out and seeing if you're interested in it. I mean, it being free to play, I think, helps a lot with that, but you know, as a new shooter in the market, it's kind of hard to come in here and be a premium offering these days, right? There might have been a time where this was something that cost money to play, but I don't think that really works in the modern era, trying to get as big of a player base as you can in order to compete. So I think they've done the right approach. It has the fundamentals of a game that could be really successful. we're gonna have to wait and see how long it lasts. I don't know. Is the generic element of it gonna hold it back from potentially being a big breakout hit? It seems to have a strong start off the gate. We'll have to see where the long term of this one goes, but X gonna give it to you, I guess.